for shot, challenges Reckless, and will win.
I was always expecting us to beat Fnatic. I think we have better players.
Right now they're on and off, but they're a really strong team when they're on.
And Vitality beat Fnatic.
We managed to pull through and go for the win, and it was pretty easy.
I don't think there's like more pressure just because you played Wild last year.
Power of Evil's trying to get away with the Rift Walk, and that's all he can do. It's not done yet. Forgiven shuts him down, and H2K go 2-0 in week 1.
I don't really feel pressure.
If you just learn something from these games, it's okay.
I think it's going to be a pretty even match, but we're going to go and win.
Welcome to the European League Championship Series. We're coming to you live from the LCS studio in Berlin, Germany, where Europe's best are about to settle the score on Summoner's Rift. As you can see, everyone's piled into the studio, ready to go for day 2 here in Europe and seeing our game of the week, which is going to be first up, and it will be OG versus Vitality. There we see the guys of OG. Sven had a fantastic game yesterday versus the UOL, and there are the Giants interacting with some fans before the show as well. Vitality setting up, and the pillow with Kasing or the other way around. Will this be the new thing? Not Dyrus in his pillow, but Kasing in his pillow? I certainly hope so. Hello, I'm EpicSkillshot supporter. Glad to be back on the analyst desk for day 2, where I'm joined by James Stress O'Leary and Richard Pulse Cam. Very happy to have you guys with me. You guys look super snazzy.
Challenger takeover.
Challenger takeover.
Takeover
Here in the LCS, but it's LCS games today, and yesterday the teams returned to the stage after a week to improve on whatever they pulled off or didn't pull off in week 1. And at the top of the tables, G2, now G3-0 esports. Fantastic start, continuing on their winning recipe from week 1 rather.
Really good start for G2. Makes us a little bit happy as Challenger casters to see the team coming up and doing well. They did have a fairly easy schedule though when you look at it. Even the owner, Ocelot, tweeted that yesterday, talking about how today is their really first big test. Obviously no disrespect to their opponents from any parties involved there, but G2 certainly now have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, we'll see if they continue that. And we look at other games from yesterday. That last one, Fnatic versus H2K. Very exciting, and it's still the question. It was a very high tactical game, but whose side did it come up the most? Was it H2K forcing that on Fnatic, the other way around?
Yeah, it was a slugfest because it was all of this build-up to those 3 major fights that happened in those games, but it was because both teams were matching each other on such a strong macro level that forced it into a game like that. And it was so interesting to see, and it's something that we'll have to go back and break down, and I'm sure the teams will have to do the same.
Yeah, definitely. On the bottom of the table, though, Splice, Giants, they're not there yet. 0-3 so far. Do you think they'll find their footing in the next couple of weeks?
I think Giants seem maybe slightly more likely. Just from how we've seen Splice trying things that are a little bit too far out of reach for them right now. That's a bit of a sad story for us out of Challenger. Would have liked to have seen Splice do better, but still there's time for them to improve.
There is, and there's time to adapt to the meta as well. There are still a few highly contested picks as we continue the second week of Pro Play on patch 6.1. Yesterday, we touched on a lot of champions that were 100% pick ban until then, but you guys wanted to highlight some specific ones we saw yesterday.
Yeah, we wanted to look at some of the picks that we actually saw picked a lot rather than banned. The first one I want to highlight is Lissandra. There's the obvious things where she's flex, has wave clear. The other less obvious things are her role somewhat in team fights. You know, between Zhonya's Hourglass and her own ultimate, she soaks a lot of time from the enemies. If you can get that ult onto an enemy AD carry, you add all of that time together, and the potential is like a 7.5 second zone during a team fight. So a bit more of that hidden power that we've seen somewhat from Lissandra.
Yeah, sort of even acts as like a tank towards the end of team fights as well. But then you take a look at Corki as well, incredibly strong right now. Korea's been playing a lot of Corki. He's fantastic as like a long-range poker. He's got the wave clear, also a flex pick in the mid lane, an AD carry, and he's pretty much taken over Lucian as the #1 AD carry as well. So he's just exceptionally good right now.
That was quite interesting because we saw so much Lucian and he was not there at all.
Yeah, he wasn't at all. But you look at supports that went either with Corki or with some of the other poke champions. Trundle is one of those. Fairly high pick rate, not the highest win rate, but a lot of it, what Trundle is bringing bringing is the ability to not only shred tanks, but the pillar to slow people around turrets, then poke is super easy to land.
And then you have his big brother, the Alistair, in the bot lane as well as the support, the big cow brother. He's got the peel, he's got engage, he's got teamfight, he's got dive potential. Crepo and Deficio are talking about how he's maybe the best support right now as well. And then also looking at the mastery is very interesting. Miffy decides to run wind speakers, which gives the entire team more armor and magic resist because he's the AoE heal, much like Sona, versus what we've seen with other Alistairs going with like Bond of Stone, which is better for the laning phase and just being with your AD carry.
What about your pick for top lane, Alistair? We haven't
Rest in
seen
peace,
it.
I'm afraid.
It's not, yeah,
0%.
it's just better as support right now. Well, as the split continues to unfold, we want to get your input. Hop on Twitter and tell us which champion is your favorite pick so far in 2016 and why. As always, send your replies at LOL Esports and use that hashtag EULCS for us to pick them up. I'm going to say Lux, always been a favorite of mine. Of course, that Star Guardian skin is amazing, but it's just a happy switch up.
I played so much Lux after preseason, only Star Guardian as well. I actually managed to get Champion Mastery 5, but I want to see people do the glass cannon Lux. Give me Dark Seal into Medjai's. It's not great, I'm going to be honest. You probably shouldn't do it too often, but it's super, super fun.
Well, for me, it would be the Alistair top, but unfortunately he's Dunzo right now in 6-1. However, Graves top is a thing. Also with Graves jungle, incredibly good right now. We saw Cabashard bring that one out. Haven't seen all that much from it yet, but he's fantastic into those tank matchups, and there's so much damage, it's just so fun to play.
We'll see what we see today. Week 2 continues in just a few minutes, starting with our game of the week between Vitality and Origin. And later on, we'll see Fnatic take on the Unicorns of Love. And it's going to be G2 versus H2K to close out the day. A bunch of interesting matchups, but it's time to dial in on our game of the week, and that is Origin versus Vitality. Starting with Origin, a lot of criticism from our side and their own side, honestly, after their 0-2 start. But they wiped that totally off the table with their performance versus UOL.
Yes, small blip at the beginning with the first blood going over to the Unicorns, but after they got the read on Diamond procs, they finally locked him down, finally got him on the ward. OG took 2 back-to-back kind of reactive team fights, but OG getting in position for these fights very, very quickly was what gave them the ability to take him. And Origin finally managing to find a little bit of consistency, even Parabeeble getting involved in this setup here. But, you know, I think a lot of this revolved around just how comfortable this setup was for Origin. And
that was the key. Unicorns of Love being on the back foot for most of that game, and it all led up to Sven making this huge play where Unicorns of Love had to make something proactive happen, and they put all their eggs in one basket. They had to jump on Sven, but he comes in with this insane sidestep, and all those resources go nowhere. There you can see it right there, absolutely insane, because he moves parallel to the taunt instead of moving backwards, so he can go back in once he makes the dodge. It was just flawless play from Sven.
Tilted them into Oblivion, possibly.
That's what it looked like.
Diamond had also commented after that for the side of UL, it might have been a little bit in picks and bans, but in any case, Origin read them perfectly and then snowballed the game. On the other side, Vitality, they had a slow start. They had a slow game, and Shook in the interview after also said, well, it's all about being having a plan in that early game and not being too intense, and they had a very late first blood, 20 minutes in, while the league-wide average is at 8:26, and that was something we might not have expected from the lineups and the types of players on that lineup coming into the year, but it seems to be their jam.
It is for the first couple of weeks. I wonder whether they'll start to mix that up somewhat as the weeks go on. I feel like in yesterday's game, they were being somewhat careful around not getting the TF on the opposite team snowballing other lanes too hard, so they were playing a little bit more passive. They knew that they could afford to wait with the composition they had. So if they're in no rush with their comp, that's very comfortable for Vitality. I do wonder, though, how that changes as we go forward.
Exactly. They were playing the reactive game because they didn't need to be proactive. And then we also saw Cabashard on that Graves top, which we hinted to earlier. It was great. He didn't die once, but we didn't really see much from it because all they needed to do was wait for the opponent to come to them. So hopefully he plays it again. We get to see it in more situations and in more matchups that isn't just into a tank.
He was sending a message for that matchup today versus...
Maybe he'll get banned out as well, draw a ban.
We'll see what happens. Shook, anyway, in the interview after, was also very confident. He said, well, super teams, they are made to be #1, so they're going to have to win.
A little bit of a communication error on Sean's in the interview with QuickShot was like, yeah, we're not a super team, don't worry. So I guess in Shook's mind, that's exactly where he wants to be. But the interesting comment he also made was about how he wants to play a slow jungle game, as we alluded to. Amazing on the other side, we spoke to him and he was like, you got to be loose, you got to be fast at the beginning of the game. So this could be the one that forces Vitality to speed up.
Yeah, and they just get the signal that the players are ready on stage. So we're going to hand it off in just a bit. And as we go, we'll hear a little bit more of what Amazing thinks of the 2016 jungle changes.
The jungle is definitely more fast-paced now. You obviously like get to play the game 15 seconds earlier, so that kind of influences a lot. So the jungle just is more about early game decision making and less about mid to late game vision control, which is beneficial for some, not beneficial for others, but definitely something that I look forward to. I'm gonna be quite interested in seeing how I'm gonna perform on a patch where it's gonna be similar to Season 4, and it's gonna be a lot about the jungle being like impactful in the early game.
Hello!